Sox are in honor of spring training starting this week. As an avid baseball fan, I actually think this entire week should be considered a holiday, but it's not. So my way of honoring today's Sox are none other than Mr. San Diego himself, Tony Gwynn. So session 3 is Tony Gwynn's Sox. All right, so let's go ahead and in your catalog, turn to page 87. So we're looking at the second degree requirement. We are looking at the GWAR, Graduation Writing Assessment Requirement. So the GWAR requires students to show competency in writing at the upper division level. So this is specific to students entering into junior standing. So you're entering into junior standing when you are earning 60 units. To determine how students will satisfy the GWAR, students first need to take the Writing Placement Assessment. We refer to this as the WPA. So the GWAR is the requirement, and the WPA is the exam that determines how to fulfill the requirement. The WPA is a 2-hour exam, and it's offered by the test office. Continuing students must take the WPA when they are completing 60 units, or they can take the WPA when they're completing 60 units, or they must take it in the semester immediately following earning 60 units. Transfer students must take the WPA during their first semester. They are eligible to take the exam as soon as they receive an offer of admission, but if they don't do that, then at the very latest, they must take it sometime in their first semester at SDSU. Students who do not take the WPA by the end of their required time frame will have a registration hold placed on their record until the WPA is taken, and they will not be able to register for courses for the following semester. Once the student has taken the WPA, the score and the major will dictate how the GWAR requirement will be fulfilled. So, here's a chart that refers to the scores. So, a score of 7 or lower, the student will need to take a total of 2 classes. So the first course is a required course, and it's either RWS 280 or it's RWS 281. If English is the second language, the student will take RWS 281. So it's kind of like, remember how we talked about the remedial English course, RWS 94? RWS 281 is specific to non-native speakers. So, and it does say that in the course description. And then 280 is for our students that are native speakers of English. So 280 or 281, it's a required registration course, which means it's going to have forced registration. The student can't drop the course, they can only substitute the course, just like our other forced registration courses that we have. After taking that course and passing with a C or better, the student can then enroll in one of the approved upper division writing courses. The upper division writing course will not have required registration. It can be taken, usually it can be taken any semester before graduation, and also the student must earn a C or better in that as well in order to fill the requirement. So on page 87, there is a list of all approved courses. This is important. Students must check in their major requirements section of the catalog to see if their major requires a specific writing course. Okay? So if the student gets an 8 or a 9, then they need one approved upper division writing course to fulfill the GWAR. So remember that the upper division courses do not have required registration, and students have to check to see if a specific upper division writing course is needed for their major. If not, they can take any of the approved upper division writing course that are on that list. Some of those courses are only open to certain majors, and some of them have additional prerequisites. So they need to read the course descriptions to make sure they're choosing the appropriate course. So as an example, if you look on page 87, you'll see that list of approved upper division writing courses. If you look at the fourth course down, English 306W is for liberal studies majors only. If you were to look on page 221 at Econ 449W, you'll see that it has additional prereqs of at least 12 units of econ courses. So it's not open to anyone, they have to have the prerequisites. If the student scores a 10, no course is needed unless upper division writing course is required by the major. Okay, any questions on that? Yes?
You can't like double dip if you were to get 8 and your major did require a writing class. Could you do that for both? Not like the book requirements in one class, or would you have to take an additional?
Oh, we're gonna look at examples. I see what you're asking. Yeah, we're gonna look at examples right now. And it should answer your question, but if it doesn't, we'll come back to it. Any other questions before we move on? Yes?
Yeah, so if you get a 7 or lower, that means you have to take 2 writing classes at the same time?
No. You take the lower division one first, and then you can take the upper division approved.
Okay.
The lower division has to be taken, it'll be forced registration, so you'll have to take it immediately following taking the WPA, so the next semester. And then once you pass that with a C or better, then you're clear to take that upper division anytime before graduation. Yeah. Yes.
So if you're completing 60 units right now and you don't take the WPA until next semester, will your registration be on hold for next semester, or is it the semester after?
Hold on just a second, let me look. I mean, I know the answer to that, but I wanna see if I go over it, I don't. Okay, so everyone sitting in this room, you are current students. So your time frame is different than a new transfer student, okay? Your time frame is you can take it in the semester that you're earning 60 units. If you don't do that, then you must take it the next semester, immediately following earning 60 units. Okay, does that make sense? Do you have more questions on that, or is that, okay, perfect. Yes?
So under accounting, for instance, it says that you have to take the WPA with an 8 or above before taking accounting 390. So if you get like a 10 on the WPA, do you not have to take that accounting class? Or
No, because that's an example of a major that requires a writing course, so it doesn't matter what you score.
Okay.
And we're gonna go through some examples right now that'll kind of help you understand when it says that, what to do next. Yes?
If you get to 60 units, like if you take a class over the summer and it gets you to 60, is the semester directly following like that? Do you only have like 1 semester to take it then? Because you hit the required number over the summer?
I don't think that summer is counted in the 60 count, but you can always check your web portal, because you'll start to receive messages when you're required. But important for you guys at orientation to stress, with freshmen, we're not gonna focus too much on the GWAR, because they have a long ways to go until they even take the exam. So we usually, with freshmen, we just quickly explain what it is, and we say at 60 units, you'll take an exam. That'll tell us how many more writing courses. With transfer students, you're really gonna focus on the fact that they must take it in their first semester. Any other questions before we move on to some examples? Yes?
You can take it up to twice, right?
You can take it up to 2 times, yeah, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. Up to 2 times in your required time frame. So if you're a student that's achieving 60 units and you take it once, you actually have the rest of that term that you're achieving 60 units, and you have the rest of the next term. Yeah. But transfer students, again, very important, they only have that first semester. Any more questions? Yes?
Can you take it over summer?
Yes.
And then, so whatever you get on the summer would apply to your spring, the following?
You're only allowed to take it twice. So, was that your question?
No, so like if they get their score back and they have to take 2 classes of English still, then they would start that in the fall.
Yes, if they got a 7 or lower, you mean? Yeah. Uh-huh. Any other questions? Okay. So let's look at some examples. So let's turn to page 313. We're looking at the journalism major, and we're looking at an emphasis in advertising. So every major has a section about the GWAR in their major requirements. So go ahead and locate that, and then I'll ask a volunteer to read what the GWAR requirement states. journalism major, emphasis in advertising. I have a volunteer.
Students must have fulfilled the writing placement assessment with a score of 8 or above before taking Journalism and Media Studies 310W and earn a grade of C or better. See graduation requirements section for a complete listing of requirements.
Okay, thank you very much. So score of 8 or above before taking JMS 310W. So this means even with a score of 10, which is technically a passing score, the student must still take a writing course because it's required by the major. If a student scores a 10 on the WPA, they still have to take that JMS 310W. If they score an 8 or a 9, then they obviously still have to take that JMS 310W because it's part of the major requirement. Most majors receiving a score of 10 will allow the student to fulfill the GWAR. They don't have additional classes for them to take. Okay, any questions on that before we move on to other examples? Okay. Okay, so now let's look at another example. We're going to turn to page 426. We're looking at the social work major. So if we turn to 426 and we look at the GWAR requirement, we're going to see that it states passing the WPA with a 10 or completing the upper division writing course with a C or better. So that means for this major, if the student scores a 10, they have fulfilled the GWAR. Does that make sense? Any questions? Perfect. Okay, let's look at a few more examples. So let's look on page 264. We're looking at geography, emphasis in integrative geography. If I could have a volunteer to read aloud the GWAR statement. Anybody? Oh, yes. We're looking at geography with the emphasis in integrative geography on page 264.
Okay, passing the writing placement assessment with a score of 10 for English 508W, 581W, 584W, or Rhetoric and Writing Studies 305W, 500W, 503W with a grade of C or better. See graduation requirement section.
Perfect, thank you. So they can satisfy the GWAR if they pass the WPA with a 10, or if they get lower, they'll need to take a specific approved upper division writing course to meet the GWAR requirement. So it lists those courses that are approved for that major to take in order to clear the GWAR. Does that make sense? Okay, any questions? Great. So, it's going to be really important for the students to prepare. Since the score on the WPA is going to determine how students fulfill this requirement, it's a good idea to recommend that they prepare for the WPA as much as possible. The test office has a lot more information about what the test is like. It has scoring criteria, it has samples that they can look at of tests that, or writing samples that got those high scores. They also offer a workshop before every test. And so students can go to sdsu.edu/test office to get more information about the WPA. Like we mentioned before, the student can take the WPA twice within the required time frame. So we always recommend to take the WPA on one of the earlier dates, so that way if the student doesn't score as high as they hoped, they have another opportunity to retake the exam and do better. Yes?
So every year the catalog changes, and sometimes that includes changes to the major. Do majors ever change which writing course is required?
They might.
So does it stay with your catalog year, or like if you were to change your major, you have to take that new year?
So this is a question that kind of goes back to last session or the first session when we were talking about catalog years. So if you keep your major and you keep your catalog rights, then you just follow whatever's in that catalog. But yeah, if you were to change your major, then you have to follow whatever your catalog year you're now in. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But with the students that we are going to be working with, they're coming in as, you know, like I said, with freshmen, we're going to be very brief about it, but with transfer students, you know, they're not really, there's restrictions on changing their major, so it doesn't often happen.